this has probably been the most taxing time for business leaders that we've seen to date, like with so much decision making and so much planning and so much kind of rerouting of plans that needs to happen. How best can a business owner plan and budget and think about this next while? Like, what is the best approach for that, to just clear your mind and figure out what can you do and what can't you do and what must you do first? Zon?
I think it's probably will really depend on each business and the type of industry they are in. Yeah. I will say, in a way, go back to the drawing board and say, and to the basics, and say what can we do and what is necessary, both within the from a legal perspective as well, what can be done currently. I think it's about making sure, as some of my colleagues have said already, to stay on top of your budgets and stay on top of your cash flow. And as Uwais mentioned earlier, to focus on the things that you can control, because at the moment there's so much you can't control, whether it's revenue or rules and regulations, etc. So, and for me, one of the things that you can control is currently your cost. So to really focus on that. And then you get so much information at the moment, whether that's from the cash flow or whatever else that may be, but to then use that information to turn it into intelligence and then to act really fast, because it seems like everything is moving faster and faster, and in order for your business to really survive and in the end thrive, you'll have to stay ahead of the curve as such. Yeah, so to really use that information and act fast on it, and unfortunately,
I love that. I love that. I think one of the biggest skills for a business owner is to be able to discern, what needs to happen now, what needs to happen next. And I think this crisis has just kind of condensed all of that into, like, now you have to decide faster, more often. The importance and the stakes are even higher than ever before. So it's really kind of like leadership and fast decision making and sticking to your guns is definitely a big play. Uwais, because you deal with this a lot, I'd love to hear, is there anything you'd like to add in terms of just figuring out, putting the next couple of months, 3 or 6 or 12 months into numbers, like the budgeting process and the planning process around cash flow? Like, how practically, how does one go about that? Can you add anything to that?
So I would think you don't do one budget or cash flow and say, I'm done. It's something that you're going to have to keep doing, whether it's weekly or monthly, because situations change, assumptions change, and you have to adapt, as Johan mentioned. Keeping an eye on that cash flow, keeping an eye on maybe you might not have been able to negotiate with your creditor now, but maybe in a month's time you might be able to negotiate a little bit better. So make sure your scenario planning is good and updating that cash flow as often as you can, just to keep an eye on when you're paying your expenses and when money's coming in.
Clever. Yeah, a quarterly board meeting to discuss finances will not quite suffice right now, right?
Not at all.
Yeah, and if I can jump in, I mean, I think having a worst case scenario is always a good thing. To know if you're gonna hit rock bottom, where does the company lie? So yeah, that's what I always like to have, a best versus worst case scenario, just to really give you perspective of what it looks like out there and what the possibilities may be.
It is what I've just learned from entrepreneurs is, maybe after you've discussed and unpacked the worst case scenario, maybe just let them take a day before you discuss anything else or make any decisions.
Yeah.
For lots of companies, the worst case scenario right now it's an ugly spreadsheet, and it has real life implications that are quite far reaching. So just don't kind of undervalue the emotional baggage that comes with something like that. Like, allow yourself and your teams just the adequate headspace and emotional space to be able to deal with going through those types of processes and thinking it through, and maybe making your decision a day later when you've had time to digest some of the emotions around it. Guys, one more thing I think around leadership is out of the box marketing is something that's really important, generally for scaling up a company, but more so in a time of crisis to make sure you navigate and survive. I'd love to hear, are there any companies that you guys have worked with that have done some really great things in terms of out of the box marketing? Jan, maybe I'll throw that to you first.
Sure. I think when we talk about marketing, is obviously, especially in today's day and age, you cannot not talk about social media marketing, which forms a really big portion. And I recently read an article where Forbes indicated that there's actually a surge of 61% in social media usage during this COVID time, which is a massive jump. So, just emphasizing the important bit that it plays. But I think it also more so to be able to correctly leverage that and not get lost in the crowd has also increased with the exact same factor of 61%.
Sure.
So, there's a lot more usage, but there's a lot more people also gunning for those eyes looking at social media. But recently I actually had a client which during this time saw a 10 times increase in revenue, which is operating in the e-commerce space. And the thing is, they actually took the time to really understand the value that they contribute, who exactly is their client base, and then implementing a social media strategy exactly around that and pinpointing it to those people. And I think, just heating time into social media is probably not going to cut it. But to really take the time, take a step back and understand who it is that you're exactly trying to reach will probably be your best bet.
I think that's a really nice one to hear in terms of what we've said now in terms of value proposition and pivots. To be able to do 10 times revenue growth in a time like this is absolutely phenomenal. So I think everyone on the video today is like, well, okay, cool. It's possible. There are companies doing it. We have got clients who are doing, triple-digit growth in this time. It's not absolutely impossible. You just have to figure out, how to leverage the time and how to leverage technology and pivots to get that absolutely right. Calvin, do you have a scenario on your side?
I think Johan hit it spot on in terms of making use of the channels that are out there, and it kind of reaches the most users or people that are relevant to your business. And social media being obviously, most people being on social media is a perfect platform to use. But also, again, just making sure that you're not overexposed in terms of those costs. Those costs can also run from a marketing perspective. I've seen costs run, hundreds of thousands a month. So just to also understand what your contract terms and legal terms are with those providers. But on the upside, definitely in terms of exposure, it's probably is the best platform at this time.
Then I think under leadership, we can't finish up the leadership talk without talking about communication. I think communicating with your client and your prospect clients from a marketing perspective and a client services perspective is important, but also communication internally to your teams, I think right now is really critical. Wais, what would you say are the most important things you've seen entrepreneurs do that help them to communicate clearly to their teams?
I think what's most important is over communication as opposed to under communication. If you think you're communicating enough, rather communicate more than communicating less. Especially if we've implemented salary cuts. Employees are afraid for their jobs. If you're not communicating, they're just getting the negative influences from other people that are getting retrenched. So it's best to rather to eliminate that fear is to continue over communicating to ensure that you don't lose, because you could risk losing your best employees who will start looking elsewhere if there's other potential opportunities in the market, and you don't want that to happen.
Definitely. Yeah, we can't overemphasize proper communication with your teams at the moment. Guys, so I think with that, that's the last kind of question around all of our topics that I've had. Maybe I just want to give the floor to each of you for another minute and just hear, like, is there one core thing you would love to leave as a takeaway for business owners watching the session? In this time, a message or a key takeaway from what has been said today, Johan?
Yeah, I think it all looks very gloom and doom out there, but I think part of what we try to accomplish obviously today is to also say, yes, there is still hope, there is still opportunity in every, the old saying, every dark cloud has a silver lining. The challenge is to be able to take that step back, look in the sky, look forward, see if you can spot that silver lining, and then leverage that to the best of your abilities. But yes, it is unfortunately a difficult time. We're all in this together, and everyone is affected in some way or another. So to think that it's just you, you don't have to feel isolated by that. There is a lot of resources available. There's a lot of help available as well. It's just a matter of leveraging that and asking for it.
Lizanne, final thought from your side?
I think this too shall pass. We don't know what it will look like when it is passed, but it will. And I think while it does, to stay positive, to stay hopeful, and to take advantage of the situation, the opportunities, whether that's of a new business revenue stream or spending more time with your family.
Great, love it. Calvin?
Yeah, I think, look, Lizanne and Johan have already summed it up pretty well. Anyway, so not much struggle here. But in terms of, just there is opportunity out there. Just because we're in a crisis and possibly a recession and a pandemic, let's stay away from the negativity. It's important to stay positive. It really is. It doesn't mean that you can't bag your biggest client at the moment. So just from that perspective, be ready, be prepared to take on big work and do your best to put yourself out there. Value employees, put them first, and cash is king.
Love it. Always, you have to have something for us still.
So, Calvin stole a little bit out of my mouth here, but I was going to talk about cash thinking. But cash flow, for me, cash flow forecast, very important in this time. You need to have a handle on where your cash is going. Another thing that I think to add is to stay compliant. Because if you want to get some of that relief funding, you're not going to get any relief funding if you're not compliant with SARS or with any of the other legislation. That's probably my main takeaways. And then just having a sober head. Emotional decisions are not going to help you and might result in losing value in your business. So try and make sober, straightforward decisions.
Solid. Thank you for that, guys. I think we've covered some really good bases. I think we've touched on some very important things for business owners to think about in this time. I hope for everyone that there was a couple of these learnings that they can take for themselves and use that, implement it in their teams, in their companies, share some of the thoughts with some of the founders that they're working with, and maybe also just just helps you to know that you're not alone. There's every single entrepreneur, every single management team at the moment out there. They're grappling with similar things. It's really hard, the conditions out here. 2s, 3s, and 4s out of 10s we got in the beginning. But I think there's definitely there is hope, even though it's not a strategy, Johan. And there are definitely opportunities, as the guys have mentioned. Now we've seen clients with triple-digit growth in this time. It can be done. You just have to figure out how it's done for you.
Hey, Lau here, one of the founders of Outsourced CFO. If you enjoyed this video, make it official. Click subscribe.